Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, underlying inflation during the September quarter came in at 3.5%, up from 3.2%, even as the headline rate remained at a lower than expected 2.1%. The difference between the underlying rate, 3.5%, and the headline rate, 2.1%, primarily reflects the energy rebates being paid by state and federal governments. Now, all this isn't great news for those hoping for interest rate cut, but it didn't stop the local share market rising today. It closed up 0.6% to 8,407 points. Consumer discretionary stocks led the way, although all 7 sub-indices were higher. Commonwealth Bank lost ground yesterday, but today was up more than 1.5%. Fortescue Metals Group, Goodman, Telstra and Aristocrat Leisure all ended 1% higher. BHP, Rio Tinto, Woodside and Macquarie were lower. But it's AGM season, a bunch of them still being held. City Chic Collective fell more than 25% after the retailer provided a trading update at its AGM. NRW Holdings, the resources and infrastructure contractor, it had an AGM. It recorded a first strike against its executive payments. And HMC Capital rallied 2% after the fund manager upgraded its earnings outlook. Story number 2, the value of housing construction hit a 3-year high in the September quarter, and some good news for the struggling sector. The value of residential housing jumped nearly 2% to $23.4 billion. We haven't seen that since 2021. And that was when the government pandemic payments were supporting the sector. There's also a jump in construction engineering. It just shows the boom in federal and state infrastructure spending, really. On an annual basis, building activity has been concentrated in the non-residential sector, things like infrastructure, while dwelling construction, new homes, has been flat, even though more houses are needed. It suggests the economic growth rate for the September quarter will come in the low ones, though still a fair bit to feed into that number. September quarter GDP is due out next week. Story number 3, rare earths company Lynas today warned of ongoing volatility in commodity markets at its annual general meeting, though its share price closed up over 1%. The West Australian miner is our biggest rare earths producer. In fact, it's the biggest rare earths producer outside China. At the AGM, it said market volatility was contingent on what happens in China. There's been price drops in rare earths used in products like air conditioning units and aircraft engines. Also, the slowdown in electric vehicle sales have hit prices. Story number 4, Web Travel, which less than 2 months ago was part of Webjet, released its half-year profit today. It made a $52.5 million profit for the 6 months to the end of September. The news sent its share price up 13%, the best on the day for the top 200 stocks. 2 months ago, Web Travel demerged from Webjet. It now trades brands like WebBeds. It's a B2B business, whereas Webjet, what's left over, is the B2C business. The WebBeds business is going well. Bookings were up 22%. Last half to 4.3 million. There's growth across regions. The company upgraded its full year result as well. It also announced a 150 million share buyback. That was enough to send its share price much higher. And story number 5, New South Wales looks like it will escape blackouts today after Sydney recorded one of its hottest November days in the last decade or so. In the middle of the day, Premier Chris Minns came out and called on people to turn off pool pumps, dishwashers and air conditioners. He wanted as little use as possible between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. as temps hit the mid to high 30s. We're in the middle of that 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. time, and so far, so good. A surge in consumption alongside outages at 4 units along the East Coast means supply at the moment is very tight. The Australian Energy Market Operator said there are insufficient reserves in terms of generation across the day. It used its emergency powers to talk to industry to reduce demand. Well, hopefully they'll reduce demand. That's it for the afternoon report for Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024. Michael Thompson and I will be back tomorrow morning with the Thursday edition of Fear and Greed Business News. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.